Hey guys, welcome back to Libertarians React. I'm Brad Polumbo. She's Hannah Cox. And we're the co-founders of Base Politics, and today we're taking a look at some terrible, and I mean terrible, inflation takes.
They're actually really bad. We can't wait to share these with you, so tune in.
Alright, up first, we've got Press Secretary Jen Psaki, Biden's press secretary, who, the terrible numbers that just came out today, she was trying to get ahead of them, and here's the spin she decided to go with.
We expect March CPI headline inflation to be extraordinarily elevated due to Putin's price hike.
So, Hannah, it's not just her. Biden has said this. This has become a talking point. A bunch of the Democrats. Nancy Pelosi has said this. But I feel gaslit because I am old enough to remember 2 months ago, before Putin invaded, and the 9 months before that, where we still had inflation.
Yeah, they're really kind of a one-trick pony at this point, and it is gaslighting. But the thing that I find most interesting about this is that they could easily turn this back on the GOP and Trump, right? Because this actually started under a Republican president. These kinds of policies really first started on Trump, and he even went after people like Thomas Massie, who spoke out against around the time when this first happened. And they don't do that. And I think there's a really big reason for it. And that's because, like I've told my listeners many times, there's not that big a difference between what Republicans and Democrats are doing when it comes to the things that really impact you, that really matter, the big picture things. They're largely behaving exactly the same. And so they actually can't go after Republicans and their policies because they look just like them. And so they're using, their only other scapegoat they can find, which is Putin at the time.
Right. And Putin specifically, let's be clear, folks, Putin invading Ukraine has absolutely disrupted global energy markets and led to gas prices to increase the last couple months. We're not saying it's not a factor at all, but this was happening. Gas prices were rising for a year before the invasion happened. And in fact, you can look at a sub-measure within the consumer price index that we talked about that excludes gas and food prices, which I'm always annoyed when people try to cite this. They're like, look, if you don't count the things where prices are rising, prices aren't rising. So I never like to use that measure because I think it's silly. They say those are really volatile. And I'm like, okay, well, you can't just discount the ones where the changes are happening. But let's, for argument's sake, do it. It was still 6.5% year over year inflation with all gas prices factored out. So you cannot gaslight us, Jen. I'm not falling for it. We see through it. And I'm sick of it at this point.
Yeah, I don't like that index either, because if you really think about where most people's money goes to, gas, food, rent, those are your biggest expenses. So just taking those out and being like, it's fine. I'm like, okay, cool. So my lipstick didn't increase? Great, thanks. I buy that every 4 months. It's such a weird index. I don't even know why it exists, but I'm totally with you on that.
But the funny thing is, it's a dumb index to use, but now we can use it against them.
Right, exactly.
All right. So next up, we've got a tweet from this Comfortably Smug, who can be funny, but he's like a conservative Republican, kind of a troll account, but he definitely also makes very serious policy arguments and points sometimes, and he has a very popular podcast. I was annoyed by this category of commentary. It wasn't just him, but this category of commentary. After the news broke this morning, Comfortably Smug tweeted, "This is what happens when you let people who can't define the word woman run the economy." This is obviously referencing the moment with Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson during her confirmation hearing, where a Republican senator asked her to define woman, and she said, "I'm not a biologist," and this kind of whole trans debate issue that's part of the culture war right now. And I'm not even disagreeing with them on that. I'm saying, stop injecting it into everything. This is happening right now because we printed trillions of new dollars and ran up a $3 trillion deficit. It's not having anything to do with the woke left's definition of a woman.
Also, again, Republicans are every bit as responsible for this as Democrats are. They both suck. They both did this. And I'm so tired of people trying to, use these kinds of things as a gotcha and never holding the other side accountable. And this is what this kind of thing does. It invokes the culture war instead of actually talking about the root cause of our problems, which is the two-party system and which is the fact that our government is too big and has too much control. And, I don't know. I hate the culture war. I'm so exhausted by it. It actually just really bores me. Honestly, I've said it over and over. I don't care. I don't care what your definition of a woman is. I really don't care. What I care about is if you're actually using the government to meddle in the free market and screw us all in the process and make me poorer and take away my liberties. And it's I don't understand how some people are so obsessed with this issue. It's honestly very weird.
Yeah, I would say I do care about the culture war to some extent. I think some of these things have meaning, but the emphasis, we were talking about this off air, right? Leah Thomas, that transgender swimmer who beat a bunch of biological females in some college competition recently. I do agree, for example, that the trans activists have overreached on that issue and that we do need some sensible rules about biological reality in sports. But the amount of coverage that Leah Thomas thing got compared to, say, inflation or Build Back Better or even the war in Afghanistan previously, right? Like these things that involve life and death and people's livelihoods versus a swimmer somewhere. Is she really a man or is he really a woman or whatever? Like, I just don't understand the disproportionate level of outrage, and it actually hurts our case when they're making this, like they're putting the weakest foot forward on inflation with talking points like this, when we really need to be pointing out the real causes.
All right, one more take.
Go ahead.
And this is from Josh Wingrove, and he said, March inflation came in at 8.5% year over year, a touch higher than estimates, but core consumer prices were 6.5% year over year, which is a touch below. In other words, the impact of gas prices was more than expected, but the impact on other stuff was less, a silver lining.
You see that 6.5% inflation is a silver lining after you stop counting the gas prices.
A 6.6% actual decrease in your wages is a silver lining. Thank you. Thanks so much, overlords in government.
Well, and you didn't see who retweeted that.
No,
Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain. So the White House is trying to spin this terrible inflation report as a silver lining, partly because the expectations, the projections were even slightly higher. And that to me is like saying, oh, I expected you to kick me in the nuts, but instead you punched me in the face. Oh, wow, lucky me. Silver lining of my day.
My gosh, this is just bottom of the barrel here. It really is. I don't know. I really hope people are angry about this, honestly. I mean, I worry that so many people really are distracted by like more culture war things and just not actually paying attention to how much poorer they're getting. And it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like Americans are often kind of like frogs in water that has slowly been turned up to a boil, and they don't even recognize they're being burned to death, and they keep like swimming around and be like, we're so free, they hate us because of our freedom. And it's like, you're being burned alive. And I don't know what it takes to wake people up, but hopefully this is it. And I intend to ask for at least an 8% raise in the very near future, and so should everybody else.
Yeah, and the problem is too, like this guy Josh Wingrove who tweeted that is a Bloomberg reporter, of course. It's like the media is parroting already, doing defense for this. It's like, we don't even have a media capable of informing people, though that's what we do, about what's actually going on here. But folks, that's all the terrible inflation takes we've got. If you enjoyed this video and you're watching us on YouTube, click like, comment, share, yada yada, subscribe maybe. But also feel free to subscribe and rate and review our podcast, Base Politics, wherever you listen to your podcasts.